Have you ever felt like there was a wall forming between you and your child? Whenever you try to interact with them, they put their walls up and they refuse to let you in. They ignore you, they lie to you, they act defiant against you. Every interaction you have with them feels like an argument or a battle. This broken trust that's forming is causing a wedge between your connection, and it's emotionally pulling you guys further and further apart. And as a parent, this is one of the worst feelings to have. But here's the truth. You can rebuild this connection. You can build trust again. In this video, I'm going to tell you the steps that you need to take to start building this connection and help your relation to flourish again. I'm Lisa, a child behavior expert and a parent coach. I have over a decade of experience as a pediatric occupational therapist. I have worked with hundreds of families who have been struggling with their child's defiant behaviors, emotional dysregulation, where they are tantruming, getting upset over all the small little things. And it's causing their relationships to feel like it's moving further and further apart, away from that relationship that they've always dreamt of to have with their child. It feels like something that is far in the past, and they're not sure if they will ever have that loving relationship with their child again. These feelings of disconnect with your child can be very heartbreaking. As parents, when we first had our child and we went through those early years with them, there was so much love and connection with them. But as they grew older, it may have felt for you that things were starting to fall apart. Your child was really pushing back at you. They just stopped listening to any instruction you gave them. They felt like it was me against the world, and you're just going, what is going on with my child? This is not the child that I've known before. And they're just totally changing how they're interacting with me, how they're interacting with people at school. And it's breaking your heart seeing that this is the relationship that you have right now with them. You might be finding that your child is really isolating themselves. They're not sharing their thoughts and their feelings with you. You might be asking them things like, how was your day? What did you do today? And they just roll their eyes at you and walk away. Or maybe you're just asking them something simple and they tell you, shut up, I hate you. And you just don't know what to do anymore. These interactions are starting to really get under your skin, and rightly so, because it feels like there's no positivity. Your child's just this negative ball of energy, and anything you do or say just aggravates them. And then it aggravates you, you get triggered, and then it just becomes this back and forth battle. It can feel, especially when you're just trying to have daily discussions with them and you can't seem to find this middle ground or see eye to eye on things, and you're engaging in a lot of arguments, that it feels really disappointing and that you're missing out on these deeper connections. You might compare yourself to other friends or families, and you see the way that their interactions are with their kids. It looks so pleasant and lovely, but yet with your own child, it's not the same. And you question yourself. You're questioning, am I doing something wrong? Was there something I did to have made my child this negative and this upset with me, and to have closed off in this way? It's easy to put that self-blame on ourselves, but I want you to take a moment and really start to see your child's behavior as something that they are internally struggling with. And I know this is going to be a hard ask, but I want you to not take their reactions and responses to you personally. Because what is happening in your child, when your child starts to shut down, they put these defense walls up, they ignore you, they want to lie to you to avoid a conversation, they don't want you to know what's going on in their lives. It comes down to them feeling misunderstood, or them feeling like they weren't good enough for some reason. And when we unpack this, when we really start to understand, well, why does my child feel so misunderstood? Where is this feeling of anger or resentment stemming from? We have to really look at your child's history what has been going on within your own family dynamics to really unpack that reasoning, because it's unique to every family. I've worked through this with many families in my parent coaching, and what I've seen is that the reasoning is always different because every child comes from a different background. Many of these children came from divorced families, and the way that this child internalized that divorce impacted the way they saw themselves. And that is where a lot of that anger and resentment was coming from. In other cases, it was related to the challenges that that child was facing. Many of the kids I worked with had autism, ADHD, or different developmental disorders. And throughout their childhood, they had many different struggles where they faced sensory processing challenges, difficulties academically. There were challenges from a cognitive perspective. And so all of these challenges made it really hard for them to get through their day to day. And they were receiving, negative messages, because when you are a child who experiences challenges, it's difficult for you to focus, pay attention. You are more impulsive because you don't have that impulse control. It tends to get you into trouble a lot more, right? You're behaving in ways that are more inappropriate, and the adults in the room will point that out, and they will give you comments, they will give you messages that the child takes personally. They take it in a negative way, and it starts to become their self-identity. When it's been a consistent message for your child where they have been reprimanded for certain behaviors, but it was something related to their challenge, let's say with sensory. So let's say they got overwhelmed by the sensory input in their classroom and they behave in ways to try to accommodate that, but it's being very disruptive to the rest of the classroom. So they're hearing a lot of comments like, you are being disruptive, you need to go to the principal's office. And, a lot of the reactions that they're receiving is actually rooted in problem areas in their life that they don't feel like they have control over. So they start to build this sense of resentment and this feeling of being misunderstood and how things in life are very unfair to them. And that's usually the breeding ground for a lot of the pushback that parents see when it comes to them shutting down, becoming defensive. And so it's very important as a parent to recognize that the behavior is something that is surface level, that yes, it looks inappropriate. Yes, it's something that might be annoying and bothering you. But when we peel back all the layers, what we uncover is a child who is really hurting, who is really misunderstood, who feels that life has been unfair to them. And when we can see that from that perspective, we can then start to approach things differently. So let's start talking about how we can start building that connection and trust again with your child. Because like I said, they have been feeling misunderstood. They have been feeling like they've been isolated for some reason. Whether it's reasonable or not, it is how they perceive their world. And we have to acknowledge that we all perceive our worlds differently because of our own lived experiences. And so it is the same for our children when they feel that something hurt them, they felt something was unfair. That is how they're perceiving it. And so we want to acknowledge and validate those feelings. We want them to feel that their voice matters, that the emotions they feel, it's part of them, it's part of something that they're experiencing. And it's okay if they're feeling jealous, if they're feeling angry or envious of someone, that's something they don't have to stifle down. Because when we try to say something like, oh, don't be jealous, oh, that's okay, what we're actually telling them subconsciously is that those emotions are actually not okay to express and that you need to keep it to yourself. And so we might actually be accidentally encouraging them to keep in their emotions and not share, and that we're actually building this environment where they don't feel like they can trust you to share how it is they truly feel. And so by validating your child's emotions, it's giving them that space and security that they can feel whatever they're feeling, you're not going to shut that down. You're going to allow them to experience it, to process it, right? And where we see a misunderstanding when it comes to emotions is that we often think that emotions and behavior are the same thing. But we're going to debunk this right now. Emotion and behavior are two very different things. If your child's angry and your child decides to smash a TV, feeling angry is okay. Smashing a TV is not okay, right? Maybe that's an extreme case. Let me give maybe a little bit more relatable one for you. If your child's feeling upset and then they decide to push their little brother because they felt upset, feeling upset is okay. We all feel upset. We all feel angry. But pushing your little brother is not okay. So remember that emotion and behavior are two different things. So when I say that we're validating your child's emotion, we're just validating those feelings. But we need to then intervene with the behavior in a totally different way. The next way to build that trust again with your child is being consistent with your behavior, making sure that you actually do as you say. So don't just say something when you don't mean it. And then your child's going to remember that. And then you take it back. And then they're going to go, well, you just said that you were going to do this. And then now you're not doing it. It creates a lot of confusion and it creates a lot of mistrust. I mean, imagine in our own adult lives, if you are dealing with a coworker or you're dealing with a boss and he's saying, you know what, I'm going to give you a raise. And then you're waiting for that raise and they never call you. And you're like, so am I getting that raise? They're like, yeah, you know what? I'm going to give it to you. Just give me some time. And it never happens. You start to mistrust them. You start to feel like anything that comes out of their mouth is not trustworthy and it's making me mad. And so it's the same thing with our kids. If we make promises and we break them, this is going to cause a lot of distrust. You also want to demonstrate reliability and also in terms of boundaries. If you set a rule and a boundary in your home and you kind of play around with it, like sometimes you hold that boundary, sometimes you don't, your child is not going to, understand, well, what is the real rule of this house? And, if they're more strong-willed, if they have like they're very opinionated kids that you have, they're going to push those boundaries more because they can see that you are kind of wishy-washy in your firmness around things. So being consistent around what you say, what you do, how you hold boundaries, those are all very important in building that trust, because then they can feel like, okay, mom or dad said this and that's the way it's going to be. And I can trust that. I can trust that they're going to hold firm to what they just said. Prioritizing quality time. For our kids who are really shutting down, they really struggle to let you in. A big part of that is that they feel disconnected. They don't feel like they're part of anything. They feel like they're in this world alone. They don't feel like they have anyone by their side. And so building in that quality time is so key. You might have a child who really loves certain activities and they just go at it by themselves. Maybe it's video games. And maybe it's like playing certain things on their iPad and they just do that thing all by themselves. And if you come in and you say, okay, why don't we go out together? Why don't we go take a walk together? We can go to the mall, and they immediately shut you down and they just say, I want to be alone. I don't want to talk to you. It gets really hard to navigate that. Like, what are you supposed to do as a parent? And so my little trick here is to really hone in on your child's interest. Get into their world. You really want to take advantage of the things that they love and show your curiosity. Because when you pique your own curiosity into their world, they feel like you actually care about what I'm doing, right? Even though your child is just playing maybe like Roblox or Minecraft or whatever it is, and to you, it's like, I really don't care. I really don't like this stuff. But when you show that curiosity, asking them, what are these different characters? What are you supposed to build? Oh, that's interesting. Can I just watch to see how this all works? that can be a really great way to find your way in, where they're not just going to shut down on you. They're not just going to put up their defense walls, because they actually have a love and passion for this activity. And them sharing it with you will feel like their greatest joy. So give that a try. Really tap into what it is your child loves to do as your way to connect and spend that quality time. And the other thing about quality time is we have to remember that in today's day and age, we are in a very fast-paced world. We are running from one thing to the next. We're sending our kids to school, we go to work. Our kids are at school all day, then we pick them up, and they go to after school activities, then they have their homework to do, and it's rush, rush, rush. And there really isn't that quiet time where everyone can decompress. So fitting in those moments throughout your day where you guys can just sit, relax, just be in each other's space, creating that type of environment for your child can give you opportunities to have quality time. Now, the final thing about mistrust. So a lot of our kids become defensive when we feel like our parents are defensive too, right? If they're reactive, we feel like the only way to protect ourselves is to be reactive back or to completely shut down. So this is a reminder to yourself that working on your own emotional regulation, how do you respond to your child? If your child does something that is inappropriate, that is something that you don't agree with, what is your reaction to that? Do you tend to escalate? Do you yell? Do you lose control of your emotions? That can create a lot of fear and tension, causing your child to shut down, because now they feel like my parent is getting mad at me over something that I did, and I have no control of the situation. I feel like I'm always the one to blame, and I'm just going to shut down because of it. Whether that's the case or not, I know that this is all very subjective, right? How your child views a situation versus how you view the situation can be very polar opposites. But when we lose our temper, when we escalate in a situation because our child is reacting a certain way, all we're doing is adding fuel to a fire that is burning on their end. And it is going to end up causing that battle that you're currently facing, or it's going to cause them to just shut down completely, which is why you can't seem to interact with them without an argument, which is why they seem to be lying to you all the time because they feel like they can't trust you. So everything really starts with us as parents. Our children are new humans to this earth, and they are learning the skill of regulation. And so we can't expect them to start regulating their emotions if we haven't done it ourselves. So this is a very gentle, kind reminder to you guys that our emotional regulation really does matter. We need to work on how we manage our feelings and how we behave in moments when we're triggered, and to express that in a more healthy way, in ways where we're communicating more effectively with our child, because that is also going to teach our child how to regulate their own emotions and respond back in a healthy way as well. If you're noticing that your child's emotions are really up and down and it's causing a lot of the stress in your home, you're not sure how to unpack all of this, how to unpack what it is that's going on with their lack of emotional regulation, why are they experiencing these up and downs? My course all about emotional regulation really breaks this down in an easy format for you to understand what are the 5 foundational pillars to emotional regulation. When there's problems in any of these 5, it often leads to big emotions, tantrums, dysregulation. And so when you can start seeing it from this viewpoint and you recognize that this is the thing that's triggering them, then you can find solutions that are actually going to support them so that they don't get into states of dysregulation. If you want to know more about my course, it's all in the description box below. So I want to remind you guys that rebuilding connection does not happen overnight. It does take time. It takes consistency and patience, and it starts now, right? If you're noticing that disconnection has been unraveling for months or years now. We're not waiting for it to just suddenly disappear. It's about taking action today so that you can start rebuilding a healthy relationship with your child. I know ultimately you guys are here watching this video because you want to have that good relationship with your child over the years as they become adults. You want them to feel like they can come to you when times are hard. You don't want them to be running to someone else, especially when they get into those preteen, teenage years. It gets really difficult because they start to really put their priorities in their friends and in their peer group, and they naturally do start to drift away from family. But if you can build a strong family foundation for them, when times get hard, they won't run to their friends, right? Who are going to influence, likely to do bad things. They're going to come running back to you, asking you for help. And that's what you want at the end of the day for your kids. And if you're feeling like, this has been going on for so long, and is it even possible to repair my relationship with my child? It is never too late to repair. I have seen families who have been struggling for years, for even decades, where families are already, the kids are already grown up, they're already in their adolescent, adult years, and they have been able to repair it because they're all willing to put in that work. And so that's really what it comes down to. Are you willing to put in that work to start shifting your behavior, shifting your perspective around this, start adjusting the way you behave in your lifestyle, right? Creating that quality time with your child and working on your own emotional regulation, thus working on their emotional regulation. Everything is interconnected when it comes to family dynamics and building harmony within families. And if this is something that you truly want to start working on, start building that family structure again in your home, feel free to DM me with any of your questions. I'm happy to help. I offer one-on-one parent coaching to support families through their journey, and I would be more than honored to help you on yours. I hope you like this video. Please remember to like and subscribe to my channel, and I will see you guys on the next one.